This is your City Council Roundup, a recap of what's happening at City Hall with John Ongaro. The views expressed in this program are solely of those of the host and not necessarily those of the radio station or its partners.
I often wonder how many people stick it out through the entire council meeting, how many people actually watch the entire session. I felt a sense of pride when at 12:30 a.m. the city clerk said, "Cheers to you for sticking around if you are still watching." I felt like she was cheering me on a little. Little did I know that there was still another hour to go at that point. I am running out of ways to describe the meetings each week because just when you thought you've seen it all, this group does not disappoint. At the same time, it could be because of the 1:22 a.m. adjournment that I'm having a tough time filtering or even censoring my commentary each week because it's just getting worse week after week. Last night's meeting could have been done in a couple of hours. Instead, it went 7 hours. At least they were able to enjoy their chicken breast, string beans, and potato salad for dinner. Oh, and they had a couple of desserts, too, that they shared with the media a little bit later after midnight. They could have used some late-night snacks after 11 last night to keep them happy because, of course, things got punchy again last night with the same counselors bickering at each other, some of them being rude. And, oh, wait till we get to the hot mic moments and the hot camera moments that kind of entertained us after midnight. Let's get into it with the start of the meeting where Mayor Ken Boshkoff announced that this would be City Manager Norm Gale's final meeting. With over 40 years of public service in his career, Mr. Gale, in my opinion, has led the city well, and he did it with a genuine love for the community that he calls his hometown. It's quite a feat considering all that he has seen over his tenure and what he has had to work with, floods and COVID and more. Mr. Gale gave it his all through his time, whether you agree with him or not, or agree with his direction or not. As of 9 minutes ago, or 10 now, he's no longer the city manager and now gets to enjoy his retirement. Mr. Gale addressed council and with some emotion that actually even choked me up a little bit. He had a few powerful words where he thanked the employees of the city of Thunder Bay, saying that all of them, top to bottom, show up every day. His admin team and council for allowing him to continue to learn and proudly proclaim that he loves the city and that he's not going anywhere. And because of his love for the community, reminded councilors, and I quote, "I'll be watching." Oh, the stories he must have. Mr. Gale, one final time on behalf of the community that you love so much, thank you, sir, for your service. And for me personally, you have exemplified integrity and leadership that many can only dream of. You, sir, will be missed.
I appreciate what he also said was as of 8:01 tomorrow, meaning this morning, he said, "Don't call me."
Yeah, he's done.
And that was great. I mean, I understand where he was coming from, but it must be a sense of relief for him as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
At 8:01 this morning, new city manager John Collin took over. After last week's meeting, let's be completely honest with one another, I'm completely surprised he came back. But as mentioned, just when you thought you've seen it all, now new city manager John Collin saw an awful lot more last night with the group that he has to work with. So let's get to some quick hits of the night before we get into the two standout items. Along with the new city manager, council also approved the new fire chief. Dave Paxton takes over that role, and I'm sure he'll do a great job with years of service on the fire service already. Also on the agenda, the approval of $5 million to upgrade Marina Park. After years and years of talking about it and fending off complaints from residents over loud music, which, by the way, only happened in July during Blues Fest, the city is redesigning the festival area and flipping it around. The stage will move to the north side. The play structure is going to move to the Tai Chi Park, and a lot of landscaping will be done over the next 3 years to reinvent the space. $5 million to make the change, but breaking news, the city's portion is only $1.3 million.
Also, am I to understand what I read a couple of weeks ago? Are they going to maximize this space to possibly have up to 15,000 people for this festival area?
Look at the shock in my face. 15,000 is a lot.
15,000 is the number I heard.
There were 10,000 people at Bryan Adams for the last Blues Fest.
Yeah.
It was jammed. 15.
How do you expand that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good luck. The two big ticket items are next, the sale of Parkettes and the city's encampment issues. So let's do the Parkettes first. One by one, several deputations were made to council. It was what you would expect, passionate people about their neighborhoods, parks that have been around since the 50s that countless families have grown up with over the last month. Council has changed its mind a few times on these. took some off the surplus list and tried to put them back on, or at least try to. But through the deputations, the message was consistent. You have to have a green space. Other green spaces are too far away from our neighborhood. We're in a single-family subdivision. We don't want 4 or 6 plexes built. It'll look bad. There'll be traffic issues. The children will have nowhere to play. All of it expected and all of it fair. Everyone's park on their street is special to them. For the record, I have a green space next door to me. It's been empty for 50-plus years. It's got a couple new trees on it. Oh, and a big sign that actually says, "Don't mow me." And it's a no-mow zone. But yet, somebody on my street went and decided to cut all the grass. Wonder if the city has noticed that yet. Anyway, these parks are important. Chair Mark Bentz accepted all the deputations and allowed them their time. But that's when the charades started. Here's the procedure for deputations in case you don't watch this. Deputants submit their requests. The clerk schedules them. They come to council. They have 10 minutes to, in a sense, plead their case. After that, councilors are allowed 3 questions of the deputant. When that's done, they get 3 questions to administration. Sounds simple, right? Well, it's a simple rule that many councilors can't follow. What the chair explained last night is that we got to take all these admin questions, put them all together because it's a long night. There's a lot of deputations. And then it started. One by one, councilors put up their hand for their turn to talk. But instead of getting to their question, use the time to get on their soapbox and talk about themselves and question, even at times badger the deputants with questions like, "Well, did you know this?" It was like a high school fight. And on it went. But it was the 5-minute lead up to questions that the chair had warned them about countless times. And countless times, certain councilors completely ignored that. Even repeat offenders interrupted the chair with him saying, "Where's your question?" and then ignored him to go on with their soliloquy about nothing. These were campaign speeches. It was embarrassing, and it was a demonstration of who's there to cover themselves off because there are unhappy residents and who's there to stick to their decisions. Watch the meeting back if you need clarification. That means you too, councilors, your grandstanding over decisions you've already made is getting, in a word, cringy. And no, Councillor Pascalino, pointing out the decisions that like this were not a majority because you said no to them doesn't matter. Your colleagues said yes, and now they're panicking. Just because you said no doesn't matter. You made the decision. Of course, most of the questions prompted the standard response from City Manager Norm Gale, where he constantly reminds council, "You've already made this decision. You've had significant debate on the matter, but yet we're doing it all over again." He did go on to warn them that there are many, many more surplus properties to come, and if council is uncomfortable with these parks, just wait to see what's coming. Well, it's obvious to me that hard decisions are lost in this group because they've flip-flopped so many times in the last few months. It makes me question again if they actually have any idea what they're approving next week. The answer clearly is no. The city manager exposed that again last night. You've already approved it. You've already debated it. More importantly, you approved a strategic plan that is directly related to you approving the sale of these lands. The purpose was a financial direction. You gave us the direction. You expect the results. We're giving you the results. And now you're changing your mind. The decision they made last night will affect how everything happens going forward. The goals of the housing plan are lost because properties have been taken off the docket. But when the temperature turns up for these councillors, they change their mind. They can't stand the heat. You ask for more space for housing to meet housing targets, but then the residents show up, they make you feel bad, and you buckle every time. My favorite was Councillor Chung, who said that these people obviously love their parks, and hearing their pleas, quote, makes her uncomfortable, and that we should save these parks so they can continue to enjoy them with their family. This, by the way, was the same councillor who jumped on TV last week saying that we should use the sale of these parks to pay for the repairs of the fountain. What? Which side of the fence are you on? Last night, everybody voted to save the parks again, even though Councillor Hamilton brought back 3 parks in the city council meeting. Council turned it down. Those ones are saved. There's 3 more that aren't getting sold. With all of the sale of these properties, the city stands to make about $1.5 million plus the taxes generated by these buildings once they're built. Now, I'll be honest, I've lost track of which ones are for sale and which ones aren't, but 4 of them were saved last night. The majority of councillors voted in a majority at the beginning of the month, and at the end of the month changed their mind again. I've said this before. If you make enough noise, you'll get their attention. If the heat is up, they'll flip. They did it with parks last week. They did it with parking. They will do it even more next month. Wait till you see what's coming. It should give you some hope. If you feel strongly against something, maybe stand up at council because you might actually get your way. I'm talking to you, those that are upset about $52 million for a field for a couple thousand kids to play on. Think about that for a second. Save a park and ignore the opportunity to find revenue. Drop $52 million because a self-centered community group wants it. It works, right? It doesn't work. Yeah, they changed their mind. Which one matters? Before we get to what, again, was countless embarrassing exchanges between councillors, embarrassing like, hey, your mic is on moments, and even more embarrassing, hey, your camera is still on, or even the times that we got to hear Chris Cuthbert call the hockey game on a hot mic, because obviously some councillors found the hockey game far more important than encampments. Before we get to that, let's get to the encampment report. This one is a biggie.
Yeah, it was. Obviously, leading up to it, a very sensitive subject last night, but this one pretty much took up the majority of the media. How long would you say, 3-4 hours on this one?
Just over 3 hours.
All right.
Remember this, that council asked for this report from administration. A lot of work was put into it. A lot of research went into finding how other communities are handling the crisis. But you have to understand this. This is not a Thunder Bay problem. It's a problem across North America. Stop talking like it's just Thunder Bay, because it's not. There was a lot of information to gather and put together last night to present to council. Administration did a pile of work. But this council approved several months ago a human rights approach to these encampments. That absolutely matters, because a couple of people on council want to pretend that the human rights approach no longer matters, even though it was approved. My opinions on this are mixed. It's an incredibly complicated report that outlines a plan that councillors asked for. You can go online and read the encampment distance guidelines. This is what the administration put together, with guidelines on where encampments, defined as locations where one or more people live in an unsheltered area, can build or stay. Things like they have to be at least 100 meters away from a playground, a school, or a pool. They can't be within 20 meters of any highway or private property. Lakes and beaches, boat launches, public transit stops, off-leash dog parks, community gardens, cemeteries, sidewalks. All of it is listed in a very detailed report, complete with a graphic. Council asked for this, and then were disappointed with the results. Council also asked for a location for options for these encampments, and city administration delivered that by suggesting a parking lot at the corner of Victoria and Simpson where palleted housing could be installed. If you want to learn more about pallet housing, look it up. It's fascinating. Mm-hmm. If you don't know what it is, look it up, because this is exactly what will solve the problem. Well, councillors didn't like the location. We didn't ask enough about the businesses. We just got the report on Friday. Let's push this back. That's when new city manager John Collins stepped in. If you refer this back, you're going to get the same result. If you push back on this and ask for another report, they're going to be the same answers. Thank you, Mr. Collins, for pointing that out. I have a feeling we're in good hands. The referral was pushed back to public consultation, back and forth and back and forth. It turns out that there was only two changes made to the initial report. One, that we add to the report that the distances for encampments are subject to ongoing review, meaning in English, they can't make up their mind. Paragraph 2 was taking out the empty parking lot, no longer mentioning the Viscount parking lot at the corner of Victoria and Simpson. Mm-hmm. That comes out of the report. It's no longer an option. It comes back to council July 15th. So what happened, John? Nothing. Administration was then sent on a wild goose chase again to come up with a report that this council can't decide if they're going to take it or leave it. Then the 11 p.m. resolution came. Everybody voted to keep going except Councillor Johnson. Then the midnight resolution came. Everybody kept voting except for Councillor Johnson, who then was photographed leaning back and reclining in his chair looking to have a nap. Then the 1 a.m. motion came, and everybody agreed to keep going because it's important, except for Councillor Johnson. Let's talk about the hot mics. Councillor Gertuga, if you're going to continue to do meetings from home, watch your microphone, sir, because I could hear the hockey game in the background several times. Also, please take note when your camera is on, because standing up to stretch at your couch while eating chips doesn't look good on you. What also doesn't look good on you, sir, is admitting that you missed a vote because you had to go to the bathroom. But you didn't say it once, you said it twice. People notice these things. Thank God nobody was watching at 12:30 to see all of this unfold, but I was. It's my job to bring you that information. This meeting was embarrassing again. This council can't stand each other. If you don't believe me, watch it. The exchanges between Gertuga and Bentz, the exchanges between Hamilton and Chung, every exchange against Councillor Agarwal is getting nauseating. But look at the importance of the things that we're talking about, and this group simply can't get it together.
There's another one in the books. I do have one question for you. This report that's going to come back regarding these dedicated homeless encampments, obviously they didn't like where this proposed one was going to be. Is this just not a reiteration of what the new manager said? Basically, if they come back with another location, you're not going to like that one.
Yeah.
So where do we go with this?
You don't. You're in the same position that every community in North America is in.
Yeah.
I skipped over a part about former Councillor Roberto's deputation,
Yep.
and I'm doing that on purpose because as I'm thinking about it, I don't want to be overly rough. But we had to listen to him for 45 minutes. And last night, coming to a deputation to explain to council and administration that you actually don't know what you're talking about here, the facts, that's all subject to opinion. Mm-hmm. I invite you to watch that back on your own time. I don't feel like giving him that platform on this because we are out of time, but it is something worth noting, and it's obvious that there's a campaign there starting. However, deputations matter, people's opinions matter, but the more opinions that they bring back to this council, the more they flip-flop. There's some major things coming in July.
Yeah.
Major things. And I don't think this council has the strength or the courage to make hard decisions. They've proven that over and over again. But I'm telling you, they got to start getting along because it's embarrassing.
These are the word that just keeps coming back to me every week is these are really intense. These are tough to. It's tough
hard to watch.
It is.
It really is hard to watch for 7 hours last night. It's hard to watch, and you wonder. It's the explanation is why aren't people engaged? That's why they're not engaged.
Yeah.
Because you're talking and talking and talking, killing time for nothing. You're flip-flopping on every decision. That's why people aren't engaged. That's why when decisions are made, the community is shocked because they don't watch.
All right. I know we got to wrap up, but one more question. Do you think you'll see something different now with the new city manager in place? But that doesn't have an effect on what transpires amongst council, though, right?
He does what they tell him to do.
Okay.
But I found him to be, in the very short moment that he spoke last night, to be very strong.
Yeah,
I have a
got that
sneaking
sense as
suspicion that we are in very, very good hands. Mr. Collin, God bless you, but please bring your patience. Because if anything is like the last 2 weeks, this is only going to get worse.
I do have good news. If I looked at the council meeting schedule, I
thank God.
I believe there's a break for 2 weeks.
I celebrated.
Okay,
and then I'm on holidays.
Wow.
But during the most intense meetings, so I will break the mold and
okay. All right.
Watch
Sounds
from
good.
a boat somewhere. But
yes.
I can't promise anything nice the next day if I'm watching this on my holidays.
All right. Another reminder, you can text the word council to our T-Bay Tel Talk and text line 807-344-8229, and you'll get a direct link because we will have a recap of the council roundup on our website. And again, you can just text the word council. You get it. All right. And you can watch it all. John, thank you for doing this and appreciate it. And It's a lot of work.
We all get a breather now. Thank goodness for that.
All right.
And I need a nap. So do counselors, I'm sure, today.
There we have it. Hang tight.